Hey hockey fans, it's Dina Rocks and I'm here for some hockey talk. So today we're going to dive right into the Seattle expansion draft players. To start off with, who did the Kraken take and why? I decided to start with defensemen because it was obvious that Seattle drafted a lot of defensemen. Right off the bat, the Curtis McDermott surprised a lot of Kings fans who thought that Seattle was going to take Kyle Clegg or Carl Grundstrom, who were both left available. This is a big physical player. He's got a great shot. McDermott is 27. He's 6'5" and 240 pounds. He is a big boy, and he makes it really tough to play against. He was 6'11" and 17, 151 PIM in 118 games spread over 4 seasons with LA. Moving on, Hayden Fleury. Not a lot of people were surprised about that. 25-year-old played 12 games with the Ducks. He's won 3 and 4 after being acquired from the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm not going to focus too much on Cale Fleury just because he's a future AHLer. He's 22, but he is the defenseman younger brother of Hayden Fleury. This, in my years of being a hockey fan, I haven't seen anything where the two brothers who played the same position play together on the same team. So that's kind of cool to see. Starting next is Mark Giordano. He has spent his last 15 years as a Calgary Flame. He was not drafted until Seattle drafted him, which was kind of cool the way that he recognized the city and thanked the city for drafting him, his first draft. He's 37 years old. He was the captain after taking over for Ginla in Calgary, and I do predict him being the captain of the new Seattle Kraken squad. Jeremy Lauzon will forever have his name etched in Kraken history as he was the first overall pick from the Boston Bruins. This is not surprising. Jeremy Lauzon is a really tough guy, big too, 6'2", 204 pounds. He was 7-1 in 8 and 41 games last season. He was selected number 52 overall by the Boston Bruins. And I'm going to screw this up. Ruan Nuranda. He was tied for 5th among all defensemen. He will be a very valuable blue liner. You can't teach his size. He plays physical, never backs down from a fight. When I watched him playing for Boston, I liked his physicality. And he's going to go for relatively cheap as well. So the next player I'm going to mention from the Stars tier, Jamie Oleksiak. Once Miro was signed, I just knew there was no way that the Stars would be able to keep Jamie Oleksiak. I knew they weren't going to protect him. I think that Jim Nill was hoping that they would possibly work out a deal following the draft, but then Francis drafted the big rig, and we should have known. We flipped him to the Penguins for a year. He came back. He is a big boy, 6'7", 255 pounds. He is the heaviest guy in the league, and you can expect him to throw his weight around in Seattle. He looks very excited to be there, so I'm kind of happy for him. Moving on from Buffalo's draft pick selection, they took Will Borgen. I didn't know a lot about him other than he was picked in the 4th round, 92nd overall, and that he was the NCHC Defenseman of the Year at St. Cloud State. They describe him on NHL as a very good shutdown defenseman. From the Wild, Carson Soucy, 26-year-old, 6'5", 211 pounds. Are we seeing a trend here? I love the way that Francis is basically building out from the blue line with these big, tough guys. Everybody's going, wow, Chris Drieger, wow, Vitek Vanacek, not a big blow-away goal, but you don't need it when you have a 6'6", 6'7" defenseman blocking shots. So Carson Soucy, 26, probably played most of the season with veteran Ian Cole, and has had a career high in assists last season with 16, 1 goal, so 17 total points. He was drafted 5th round by the Wild in 2013. After doing 4 seasons at Minnesota Duluth, he joined the Wild. Relatively cheap as well, 2.75 for the next 2 seasons. He's affordable, and that's definitely the route that Seattle went with their players. Cheap, affordable, defensemen, huge. So they did spend a little bit of money. They did spend $16 million on Adam Larsson. This is probably the biggest surprise for Oilers, just because they couldn't afford to lose him, and yet they did. He has a unique playing style, and there just is not a replacement for a guy like him in the organization. I'm reading there was some speculation that maybe Larsson wanted a fresh start. He wanted to go somewhere new, maybe a brand new team, maybe an expansion team, and so he's found his home for the next 4 years with the Seattle Kraken. I can definitely see an A slapped on his chest too. Unfortunately for Oilers, Duncan Keith and Larsson were to play together, so this leaves a big hole for the team, being why the Oilers had to protect Keith over Larsson. I'm going to wrap it up with Vince Dunn on defense, 24-year-old slick skater with offensive instincts. He was signed by the GM for the Blues for less than market value, 1 year, 1.875. So another really cheap option on, I hate saying cheap, inexpensive option for Seattle. He wasn't a spectacular season for him, 6, 14, 20, and 43 games. League sources say that Armstrong was shopping him, and the most that he could find back for him was a 3rd round pick. So they left instead for him to be exposed than keep him. So that wraps it up for defensemen. I'll move on to AHL and hopefully get a forwards done tonight before the draft, because you know your girl's got to watch the draft tonight. Take care, subscribe, and keep watching.